Hey everyone, good afternoon. I think we'll have to figure out how I can actually, if we don't really have a lectern up here, but maybe what I'll do is, since we're all in the decentralized world, I'll use some of the stage props to help me out here. Move this box here. And, let's see. This one too. That, ladies and gentlemen, is some good old-fashioned Web3 resourcefulness. And just like our entire industry, thank you. 2 chairs. And this is a live demonstration of how we scale our architecture. Well, that was a bad joke, but anyway, let's go ahead and get started. So first of all, good afternoon. There's some incredible things that we're going to talk about today. And the things that we're going to talk about today are at the very heart of innovation growth and the way that we experience technology. It's something that brought all of us here together in Hong Kong. It's the idea of a technology ecosystem. So I guess while we wait for the slides to pop up, maybe next slide. I'll ask a question to the audience. How many people here have worked, or how many people here have heard of Chainlink? Great. And how many people here understand a little bit about Chainlink's role in the ecosystem? Okay. How many people have no idea what Chainlink is? No? Okay. How many people are choosing not to raise their hand? All right, okay. And then, well, let's start with a couple of things. I think the first thing we can start with is the transition between Web 1, Web 2, and Web 3. So we're kind of at an interesting point in the convergence of our technology story. When Web 1 came out, the very, very beginning of the internet, we were serving up static web pages. This was deeply, deeply centralized. So information was created by a content writer, it was served somewhere, and people consumed it. Web 2 moved into read and write. So you saw the emergence of interaction where participants on the internet could create data and host it somewhere on an application that others could interact with. This gave the rise to social media, networking, file sharing, peer-to-peer. In a lot of ways, it created the underlying infrastructure for Web3 to emerge. Now, how does Web3 differ from all of this? Well, what Web3 really means is that there's no single party that owns or hosts the data. The data is actually owned by the network participant themselves. So until now, there we go, we got the slide. Until now, there was a big limitation on how things could build. And because of this limitation, technology had to be centralized. Be it apps or business platforms, your app could be shut down. A bad actor who had control of the app or the data could cheat. So it's very, very difficult to represent value and move value. Next slide. And before we go down all of this, allow me to introduce myself. So previously, I am head of developer relations at Chainlink Labs, and previously I was at Meta and AWS. I've built some of the largest developer ecosystems in the world. About 1 in 4 people globally have interacted with products that I've taken to market. And now I'm at Chainlink. So the question's why? And what do I do at Chainlink? Well, What I do with my team is obsess over the way that we build products for our end customers to use, our developers. The team I work with, we make sure that the experience we offer our customers is more than good, that it's great. So that brings us to what I'm here to talk to you about today, is how do we actually use our product experience to catalyze exponential growth in technology systems? So imagine a world where every piece of technology you use is interconnected. Everything is working in harmony. And in fact, this is not really a distant dream, it's a current reality. We live in technology ecosystems. These are complex networks where software, hardware companies, consumers, data providers all come together and they coexist. So why does this matter? Well, it matters because interconnectivity is the dependence of one element on another. And that is the secret to exponential growth. And that is something that all of us should be interested in. In an ecosystem, every player, from the biggest company to the individual developer, contributes to collective genius. It's where your work, your ideas can stand on the shoulders of giants and reach new heights that we've never imagined. It's within these ecosystems that we see growth and expansion like never before. So single innovation, like what we've created here, propels not just one product, but an entire suite of services and devices to new frontiers. So let's talk about a principle here. I want to anchor what I'm about to talk to you about in a principle, Metcalfe's law. The year is 1997, and Bob Metcalfe invented Ethernet. And he was trying to convince companies to buy network cards. Unfortunately, he had a problem. Can anyone guess what that problem is? Anyone? That's right. No one else had a network card. Now, people didn't understand what the problem was. And if you went to a company and you said, hey, you need a network card, they would say, great, I'll buy one. And you said, well, actually, you need two. And then they said, okay, great, what can I do with two? Well, you won't really understand the value until you buy three. So he had to convince every company that he spoke to buy at least three. And at that time, it wasn't cheap. It's $3,000 back then, so $9,000, which was a lot. But in the process, he observed something very extraordinary about networks. It's that the value of a network increases exponentially every new user you add. And at the same time, costs increase linearly. It's always a $3,000 network card, but the more people that are connected to that network, the more exchange of ideas you have, the more people can use the same resources. So that's where the real value comes from. So think about it. When two people are connected, they can share, collaborate, innovate. But when three are connected, the possibilities don't just add up, they multiply. And when 1 billion people are connected, we're not just building a network, we're actually changing the way that the entire world works. And the value of that is almost beyond comprehension. This is where all of our models start to break down and why so many people try so hard. Oh, got it. All right. There we go. So this is the slide. Now, don't just take my word for it, right? Because I think if someone puts a slide up on a stage like this, I think the immediate reaction is to be very, very skeptical, especially when it's this neat. So let's dive into the real-world impact of this. There's compelling research that was just released, and the citation's down there, but this is in 2015 in the Journal of Computer Science and Technology. that actually brings Metcalfe's law from the previous slide into a vivid reality. So if we analyze the data from two giants in our technology world, Tencent and Facebook, a couple of researchers got together to see if there was this correlation, if it could be validated. And what they found was amazing. There was a powerful validation of Metcalfe's law. They found that the value of Tencent and Facebook's network indeed grew exponentially with the number of users. So you can see across the bottom, you've got monthly active users, and as it goes across billions, you've got your revenue right there on the y-axis. So you can see that that's kind of trending up exponentially. And cost, which is basically the amount that it costs to onboard a revenue, stays static and linear. So this isn't just theoretical. This is very, very tangible. So let's consider what makes these things unique, right? Facebook, it's a platform that connects billions. Every new user doesn't just add to the network, they contribute to it. They create more connections, more interactions, more content. And the same goes for Tencent, a leader in social media gaming. Each new participant amplifies the possibilities for everyone that's a part of that network. So this really does remind us that each new user, each new idea, and each new connection magnifies the value of our network exponentially. So how does that apply to us? Well, if we think about developers, in many ways, are the first users of technology ecosystems. So even the Web3 technology ecosystems, the earliest pioneers were engineers, developers, the ones that really figured out how to thread loose components together to really create a new platform for possibilities. So platforms like Apple's iOS, Android, open source frameworks like React, they not only revolutionized the way we develop and deploy applications, but they created unprecedented value. When a developer adopts a platform of technology, what they're doing is they're laying the groundwork for other people to come in and build on top of it. Each line of code is a building block for a much larger structure. And as more developers contribute to these ecosystems, again, we see that the value multiplies. And then, I think we have Apple and Android and the revenue that they generate, but then we ask ourselves, how does this apply to projects that don't have such direct business bottom line connection? And that's where we have React. The open source movement, that exemplifies that technologies like React have value, not just in itself, but in the community that surrounds it. So open source platforms, in a way, are proof that when developers come together, they share their knowledge, they contribute to a goal, and the results are astounding. React is a software that powers millions of websites and applications. In fact, it drives forward the internet itself. The community of React developers globally is 15 million. That's nearly the total addressable market of web developers out in existence. So this brings us again back to the heart of our discussion, that when developers engage with ecosystems, they're not just writing code, they're weaving the fabric of the digital society that all of us are going to be a part of. The pioneers at the forefront of these technology ecosystems. So blockchain technology itself fits this trend. Now I've extrapolated some data here, I think, because it's a little bit bumpy. But what we can see is that there's radical innovations that are happening as we speak. Right? It's challenging cryptocurrency, for instance, and other blockchain use cases are challenging our conventional understanding of how we deal with value, how we move value, how we transact. Even that idea of a currency is being challenged. But at the core of these digital currencies, a principle familiar to all of us, is that the value of the network grows exponentially. So Think about it in the crypto world. We have most monthly active developers working on blockchain projects, and they're not just contributors, right? They're actually, what they're doing is bringing other participants that are non-technical onto the network. And we're seeing this pattern match really nicely. So you can see that as monthly active developers go up linearly, right, loosely, if we extrapolate, then we can also see that the same exponential curve follows behind it. But the question is always, what comes first? Is it the chicken or the egg? Now, developers, the belief that we have over at Chainlink Labs is that developers lay the foundational stones of these ecosystems. They're the ones who translate visions into reality, build initial infrastructure applications and services that actually make the ecosystem value. And without their initial contributions, well, there'd be no platform, no network, or no ecosystem for other people to join. So this initial phase of development is really, really important. It's developers who, attracted by the potential to innovate and create, invest their skills into developing this ecosystem. And as they build, they not only lay the groundwork for future users, but also establish the core value proposition of the ecosystem itself. So if we imagine that with the developer-led infrastructure in place, banks and financial institutions are now leveraging this technology. They're figuring out now how they can leverage the inherent values of efficiency, transparency, inclusivity to expand their horizon of financial services. So the shift is not just beneficial, it's very, very transformative. And that's why we're seeing this trend of real-world assets taking off, right? Is how do we actually digitalize? How do we leverage this infrastructure that all of these engineers and developers have built to go take what we have that exists in the physical world and project it into the digital world where everyone is already participating? So this is a live exercise, and it's a societal shift. I think it's moving the entire financial system forward. And every time we integrate a financial institution or network participant into this, we improve operations, it amplifies network value, and it creates that life cycle of adoption that enriches the entire ecosystem. So what we end up with is a flywheel. And in this flywheel, what we see is that developers create the use cases and the infrastructure, which brings users, which then creates investment, which then brings more developers, which drives more use cases, and so on and so forth. And that is the entire virtuous cycle of growth that we're seeing. But again, don't just take my word for it. So this is the success of integrating with Chainlink and what it actually brings to a lot of our customers. Now, Chainlink is agnostic to what we do is we're in the business of connecting data to blockchains. And these successes aren't just coincidences. They're the results of deliberate strategies to engage developers. A big thing that we always say is our developer experience needs to be the best. People need to be able to use our products and services seamlessly to build whatever it is that they're imagining. So you can see right after Chainlink integration with some of our partners, there's a huge spike in developer engagement across all these chains. And that's what our products do. And to describe a little bit of how our platform is actually divided, so what we've created is a platform of products and services that are individually useful, but together composable to create all sorts of different apps. We provide data access, compute, and cross-chain capabilities with CCIP. And all of that on top of a decentralized Oracle network, which is how we make sure that the data retains its integrity. And at the very bottom of our platform layer is the data that connects to that. And we have one of the largest developer ecosystems in the space. Every year we connect with over 50,000 developers. Part of this is so that we can get close to really understand what developers are asking for. So how do we create the next generation of network effects? How do we really empower developers to do what needs to be done to drive this paradigm shift forward. Developer activity is extremely high and has been growing consistently. We have 20,000 public GitHub repos using Chainlink. We have community meetups all over the world. We have a hackathon that we host twice annually that last year got over 20,000 registrants. If you are a developer, I encourage you to go check it out. We actually have a new one. But yeah, it's about attracting top talent. It's more than just a good platform. It's about fostering an environment where developers feel supported through tools, the community, and recognition. And so these are some of our products. We have CCIP, which is brand new, released pretty recently. And what that does is allows developers to take whatever data they have on one chain, whether that's permissioned or public, and move it across chains. Because we believe that in a truly efficient, super connected world, in order to really embrace those network effects, we have to do more than just bring data to one chain at a time. We have to allow every single chain to be able to talk to each other. And in fact, if you've done anything on DeFi, you've probably interfaced with a service or a product of ours. 80% of all total value secured happens on our Oracle network. We enable 71% of the transaction value across DeFi, and 52% of DeFi protocols are using our general purpose oracles. Which brings us to today. If we start to think about what we've talked about, we stand on the new frontiers of Web3. Where is it going to go? What direction are we taking our products? Which way is the industry and the ecosystem moving? We realize that there's still an enormous amount of potential. Today, there's only about 30,000 blockchain developers globally, a little more. But we know that the total addressable size of the community is 30 million. What we want to do is make it easy for all 30 million of those developers to leverage what it is that makes blockchain technologies great. And through that, we hope to expose ourselves to even greater network effects. And this is much, much bigger than DeFi. Because if you think about it globally, we have over $867 trillion in assets. And markets that are operating 24/7, 365 days a year. So this is the potential value that we could be bringing on chain or tokenizing. So we've seen how the developer-first approach that we have at Chainlink Labs can catalyze exponential growth, transforming platforms and industry leaders. I encourage all of you here today to consider how you can support and engage developers. Their success really is your success. Thank you for your time and your attention. Let's continue to build a future together.